we are asked 280 is what percent of 70? So this is obviously a percent question, but a good way to think about it is as a very basic word problem. In a word problem, you're given something in English, and your job is to translate. So hence translation, translate the English into math. And the way you do that is by replacing certain phrases or words that are in English with their mathematical equivalents. So in this case, in percent word problems, there are four basic phrases, or that is four basic words that you have to know how to translate. So if you see the word, for example, what, you want to replace that as a variable. If you see the word is, you have to replace that with an equal sign. If you see the word percent or the symbol percent, replace that with divide by 100, or sort of the bottom part of a fraction where the 100 is the denominator. I'll explain in a little bit, or I'll show in a little bit exactly how this looks. And if you see the word of, you want to replace that with multiplication. So these are four words that you'll see in more or less every percent question, and if you can translate them into their mathematical equivalents, you'll get an equation that you can then work with. So how does that work here? Well, so we're asked 280 is what percent, I'll just write the symbol, of 70. 280 is already in math terms, or it's in the language it's written in is already math, not just English. So we'll write that, we'll keep that as 280. Now is, as I showed before, is that is a phrase that you'll see in a lot of percent questions, and you can replace it with an equal sign. So literally, you go left to right, and anytime you see any of these words, you replace them with their mathematical equivalents. So is becomes equals what percent. Now remember, what is an unknown, and percent means over divide by 100 or over 100. So what percent is what over 100 or x over 100? So we'll write that like so. Of means multiply, and 70 is again just 70 because that's already in math terms. So what we have here is a phrase that was written in English has now been translated into math, or into algebraic form. We have 280 is what percent of 70 becomes 280 is equal to x over 100 times 70. So we can reduce before we multiply, and we get 280 is equal to 7x over 10. Now our goal is to solve for the variable, so I'll multiply this by 10 over 7 to get the x by itself. Multiply the left side by 10 over 7 because we need to do the same thing to both sides. 7 and 280 reduced to 40, and so what we have here is 10 times 40 equals x, or 400 equals x, and so the answer is E. So once again, these are the four words that are going to appear in almost every percent question, or that any percent question can be rephrased using. In other words, you can rephrase any percent question with these words, and you need to memorize how to translate them into their mathematical equivalents.